and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are doing a base game build set in the world of Willow Creek, and we are on the Daisy Hovel lot on, I think that's about a 30 by 20, and right now I am sort of going through the debug menu, and today's build I am doing a tiny house. I know there's a lot of people can always afford expansion packs, so it's kind of fun to play around with base game and see what you can do. And base game has this trailer that you can use for gameplay, and earlier you saw I made a custom floating tile. You can look up how to do it if you're not sure. I think Kate Emerald did a really good video on that, but basically you create 2 floors and then you delete all the walls and most of the tiles except for the middle subfloor, and that creates this movable floating tile that you can then build on, and that's how you can do these kind of tiny house builds on this trailer. Simlicy does a video on this, I think, as well, so I can link that down below if you're curious on how to make tiny houses with like debug base game type things. But right now I am just working out how to do the layout. I saw this video on YouTube, I saw a thumbnail and it had a tiny house on it, so that's kind of where my inspiration came for it. It was, I don't remember the name of the video, I just remember seeing the thumbnail and it was a really nice looking tiny house. And the video wasn't about that tiny house, so I just took a screenshot of that house as my inspiration. So that's what I'm trying to kind of create here. As far as the building itself, like the structure, I ended up adding a platform in it because I wanted the house to sit low enough so that it kind of looked like it was really sitting on that trailer. So thank goodness for the platform tool that we now have, and so I was able to hide the wheels poking through because I used a platform. And right now I'm just trying to kind of see where the bedroom's gonna go. This house is inspired for a family of 3, so I've got parents and 1 child, and so kind of working out where the bedroom's gonna fit. And I'm using base game bed, and so long as your room is 3 tiles wide, they can use the bed on both sides. And then I have that little bump out off of the bedroom as well for, I think I'm going to put a bathroom there. And now I'm just trying to figure out where to put the front door. And at first I added a tile there along with a platform, and then I decided probably I could just add the staircase straight onto the door, because staircases, if you get them like a little bit farther away from a door, it will like make a little kind of platform stretching out to the door so your Sims can step onto it. So yeah, that's what I did, and I am working on the roof. The inspiration photo had a really weird roof line, but kind of cool. It had these 2 like pop out bits, kind of like for a loft, and I don't think I end up making the roofs usable, they're just kind of decorative. But I wanted to try to make it look as much of like a realistic tiny house on a trailer as I could. And so yeah, now I'm adding some metal roofing. I think I switched between those 2 patterns for a while, and then I kind of eventually decided on one. That came out pretty nice, and added a roof to that bump out to the front near the front of the trailer. I wanted the house to look like the family had brought their trailer to this kind of like renter's trailer lots type thing, if that makes sense. You know, like land you can rent and people can park their trailer on it. That's kind of the vibes I was going for. So I added the truck there, so if they, I don't know, wanted to leave or whatever, they could just kind of drive away with the house. but I wanted to make it look like the house was kind of lived in a bit, and we'll get to that in a minute. I'm still working on the structure. The inspiration photo had this not quite like one of those metal cargo converted shipping containers, but it had like this sort of vertical wood slats on the outside of the trailer, so I was trying to kind of emulate that, and I found these I guess they're like pillars that are in the debug menu, and I kind of used them to sort of map out these kind of framed slats across the whole trailer. The only downside of using this debug item is that when the walls are down, you do see them around the whole trailer, so that kind of messes with your gameplay. You can always like delete them, or if you have the Get Together expansion pack, you can use the really slim columns and they should kind of disappear when the walls go down. So if that bugs you, you can always change it up. And I did end up changing the color of the trailer to a more gray. It's from the stucco wall paint, so yeah, I changed the color of that. And right now I think I changed the front door, and I also am kind of working out what windows to use. I originally used those base game windows and I sized them down and they fit kind of nicely, but then when I used that window for the pop outs, I kind of wanted the bottom windows to match, so yeah. And now I'm just adding like a custom awning with the roof tool. You don't really have very nice awnings in the base game, so I kind of just made my own with the roof and kind of sort of figuring out how everything is going to line up. And once I got the windows kind of situated where I wanted them, I wanted to make a custom custom shutters for the windows, because we don't have like individual shutters in like the Sims that I know of, in the Sims 4. Like we had them in the Sims 3 and it was great. So here I am, I'm using this wood plank from the debug menu, and I'm using the tool mod by Twisted Mexi to change the direction of the wood planks so that they are vertical, and you can kind of line them up so that it looks like these rustic shutters made out of wood. And that was the kind of vibe that I was going for. If you're worried whether this would show up on your game as a modded item, don't worry, that's just how the tool mod works. It's great for builders, but when you go to download this lot, it won't be modded or anything, so you don't have to worry about the items being weird. I never really use like custom content really, so I've never had any issues with this anyway, but yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. I'm very much new to the special advanced techniques you can do with building in The Sims 4, like using the Twisted Mexi mod, but yeah, it just adds to the gameplay. And so yeah, I'm just going ahead and adding the other windows on the other side of the trailer to kind of match what I eventually worked out. I kind of just worked off camera for a while to get the shutters just how I liked it. I ended up rotating some of the outer shutters on each level so that it kind of looked like the wood grain was a bit more unique. And I also added these horizontal pieces so it kind of looked like it has these mending pieces. And using those wood slats, they're just really great. Debug has some really great items that you can make some really nice custom looking content if you have that tool mod. And if you've never used it before, it's a little bit like advanced. It takes a while to get used to the tool mod. I'm very much a beginner, so I individually rotate and elevate things. I know some people, they can like do group elevation of debug items all at once, and I'm just not there yet with my skill set, but it's a really great tool to use, and it helps make the houses more realistic with all the things you can do with all the debug items that would normally look weird, but you can manipulate them and rotate them and elevate them so that they just become these new unique custom pieces without actually having to make custom content. So yeah, rambling aside, so we're just now moving on to the other set of shutters. It's a little tricky to kind of get things lined up because they're essentially just floating objects, but if you stick with it, it'll end up looking really nice and you get these sort of custom shutters. And so yeah, and after that I am moving on to just adding another little window next to the front door. And if you're interested in using any of the sort of mods or custom content things that I use in game, I'll have it linked down below in the description of this video. Now I'm just adding a light to the front door, and kind of they're a bit expensive. I'm also kind of trying to do this build on a budget with, I believe, 22,000 simoleons. Now I'm just adding a flower box to that window next to the front door, and I am layering up the flower boxes so it just kind of looks more full and more realistic. And now I'm kind of working on a front deck for the tiny house. It's kind of meant that like the whole property had this deck there that they could drive up their tiny house to and use it to, I don't know, put up chairs and kind of just relax and stuff. And so I got that in place, and I used the platform tool to make that little deck, and then I'm just using some debug bushes to kind of make it look like they might have been living there for a while, then they planted some bushes, or that the bushes were there maybe from a previous tenant. And now I'm using some debug plants. They kind of look like they're in these planters, and it just gives that extra rustic vibe because they have that wood front, so it kind of matches the shutters. And then I'm just expanding the deck because it kind of looked a bit small, and I kind of wanted it to have enough space to place some activities actually on the deck. And I'm just popping in that debug potted plant and kind of zhuzhing it up a bit. And it was at this point that I realized 3 hours into building, my OBS studio program stopped working and it didn't record me doing any of the landscaping for this build. So unfortunately I don't have that footage, but just as an overview, I ended up taking a few debug items like this watering can that's in debug, and I just sized it up once and put it over here. I added some skill building like planters, and I went and used a debug pole, and I put it down in like, I guess, the underground basement-y kind of space, and then elevated it to kind of look like the landowners provided the tenants with a water hose. So yeah, I thought that was nice. I added a card table here with some chairs so they could do some group activities. I kind of ended up making it kind of look like a campsite of sorts. I added some pine trees and used this stone pattern on the terrain paint. And then for this flower pot, I kind of went crazy with the debug plant. I added like so many of them in here. I have moved objects off for now just because I wanted to do a quick overview of this, but yeah, so this has maybe like five different bushes just interlayered and at different heights to kind of hide the previous pot's flowers because I wanted something more bushy and kind of grown. And so over here is kind of like the campsite kind of area. I added a little grill and picnic table area, and then I grabbed some lighter fluid and a fire extinguisher from Debug, and grabbed these logs that are in Debug and made this little kind of like firewood shed. I was trying to kind of make it look like the wood shed that you can get with, I think, Get Together. So I just used some half walls to build this, and then I took a room and I lowered it down into the ground until roof line was at a height of this wall, so I could put a custom roof here. And I just added this little woodworking bench here, and then I used some more half walls. I think this is one of the high walls to make an outhouse, and I used one of the off-grid toilets in there, the one that looks really rustic and handmade. Unfortunately, like, you can't make the walls go down because it's a half wall already, but you can just kind of peek in there and see that there is the off-grid toilet. And so yeah, I thought that was fun. I wanted it to kind of emulate the experience you'd get from the outdoor retreat pack, but because it's base game, just wanted to kind of, yeah, see how far I could go in making this a nice little lot. And in the back, kind of my pride and joy, I used the brand new pawn tool that was updated and given to us in the recent patch update they did for the cottage living expansion pack. So you can make these kind of cool custom pawns, and you can actually add spawners now. And so I have a tadpole spawner in here right now, and I haven't actually played with the spawners yet, so it'll be interesting to see what it looks like. But I wanted to make it like an interactive pawn that you could actually just go and back and go fishing. And so there's like this debug fishing sign, so there'll actually be fish that you can fish for in here. Added a painting easel for skill building. Did some landscaping with some debug rocks. And I don't think there's like a base game fire pit, so I made one. So I just found these kind of rock looking pebbles. I think it's like a pebble in the debug menu, kind of in the area where the logs are, and I just sized them up and made them form a circle. And then I used the tool mod to make the logs on angles, so it looks like it's kind of piled up in a kind of fire pit style. And this is like, I don't think you can roast marshmallows or anything like that with this campfire, but there is a fireplace hidden in there. So if you click just around this area where you can see the mantle of a fireplace, you can still make a fire and sit around it and be cozy and warm. And then I added this rustic guitar that came, I think, with the wood making table. I think that's something you can create. I'm not quite sure. It's been a while since I've done some gameplay in here. And then I added a bench and a few debug wildflowers and this kind of big tree root thing. And so that's what you missed. I ended up basically just landscaping all of this and then adding some more windows to the trailer and this little chimney bit. And then I also stuck a air conditioner unit on top. This would look really cool with some solar panels if you have the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack, but because it's base game, I'm just going to keep it simple. And I added this vent cover here to kind of look like it's an access door for maybe gray water and fresh water and those sorts of things. So yeah, that's the landscaping in a nutshell. I'm a bit sad that I lost all the footage of me doing all the landscaping. I just used a lot of terrain terrain paints to make this kind of, you know, interesting, and added the plant sim stump as well. So there's, you know, you can add the magical beans to that and kind of have that sort of base gameplay. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and jump into doing the interior of the house, but I wanted to show you kind of some of the landscaping I did and explain my thought process on it, since I don't have that footage. So now we're getting into the inside of the trailer and working out the floor plan for that. When I originally thought of this idea, I knew that I wanted to have a bedroom for the parents and have them maybe have a little bathroom to themselves, like an ensuite bathroom. And I tried to do that with the 2 tiles and this kind of bump out, but I just kind of scrapped that idea altogether and decided that it would be better just to do one big family bathroom, just to save on space in the bedroom. And so I got rid of the walls in there and just turned it into like a little bit of a workspace for the parents. And yeah, and so the parents have their own bedroom and the child has their own bedroom, and I am using the bunk beds that we got in a update, and it's my first time using bunk beds. I've never used them in gameplay yet, so I wasn't quite sure how much you could fit underneath the bunk beds. I know that people have had issues with it in the past, trying to make it usable. If you put something underneath the bed and it's a single tile item, it will be functional. Like, you can still use the upper part of the bunk bed, but it's a bit finicky underneath. Like how I had this desk set up, because it was pointed towards the ladder for the accessing the bed, I couldn't quite get it to function. So it took a little bit of fiddling around to finally get this room functional. I had to end up rotating the craft table underneath the bed, pointing the opposite direction than I originally had it, so I have it pointing outwards. I think it would have looked better the other way because it would have been more realistic and cozy, but it still turned out pretty good. And I have one stuffed animal in there, which is the dinosaur version of Blarfy, and so I thought that was cute. And I like that stuffed animal because, like, they're themed, so your child can talk to the stuffed animal and talk about like prehistoric times and stuff. So I thought that was cute, and so I kind of tried to make the child's room dinosaur kind of themed. And I'm just working out the bathroom there. It was pretty quick. It's just standard shower and tub combo with a sink and toilet, and everything in there is fully functional. And then I am slapping together the kitchen pretty quickly. I play tested this before actually doing a recording. I kind of wanted to see how things would fit in the trailer and whether or not they'd be functional. So yeah, this trailer is fully functional and it is within budget as well. I didn't use any cheat codes for this build for money, so what you see is 100% in budget, and it was a bit of a stretch, but I think in the end this was a 24K budget because it was a 3-sim household, and I know that your sims start out with 20,000 and then they get 2,000 sim loans for every new sim added to the household. So the wife and child would be an extra $4,000, or the husband and child would. So yeah, I think for 3 sims it is a 24K budget, and so that's what I had to work with. And thank goodness for debug, because I used it so much in this build to kind of make the house more cozy and have a bit of decor. So right now I'm just kind of getting the essentials slapped down. I've got a little bit of seating inside. I've got those bar stools for if they wanted to eat. I find that the bar stool closest to the TV works for having a meal. They'll sit on it and have a meal, but the other bar stool they like to use for watching TV, and so that's something to think about. And now I am working on the parents' bedroom, and I took a nightstand and I sized it down, and just trying to get everything to fit kind of snugly. And I end up using cabinets, the upper cabinets, kitchen cabinets in front of this window here to kind of make some storage. So obviously your Sims can't really interact with that. They can't sit on it or anything unless you put like an ottoman in there and raise it up slightly, and then the cushions could be poking through and they could sit there and nap in the window. But I decided to, just because it was low budget, to not include that ottoman. So, but you can totally add an ottoman there hidden into that bench. And here I went and used a island counter and I shrunk it down to put the computer on, because I wanted to make a kind of custom seating area for the computer. I wanted to make sure that I did have some electronics in this house for skill building and for entertainment and that sort of stuff. So I kind of made this bump out be like the little home office. And I added, I think, a stack of computer parts that you get from the tech guru courier. And then I added just a little bit of clutter and some books. And then adding some inexpensive window shades at the front windows of both of the bedrooms. I couldn't quite swing putting curtains on all the windows in the house, but I wanted to make sure that there's at least a little bit of something. And at this point, we're really low budget for artwork. So I decided to use this mural that we got with the Spanish Heritage Month patch update and use that as the wall art and above the parents' headboard. And then I went through the debug menu and just plucked out some things I think would look nice as like nightstand clutter. And I put a glass there. Yeah, I ended up pulling out a glass to use as like a glass of water at your nightstand at night. However, though, that glass, because it's a debug item and it's base game, it will get stinky over time. So that's something to keep your eye out for, as it will kind of get smelly, and you might have to just grab it, because it's right now it's a floating object. It's not actually on the nightstand because I used the red shelf to get it at the height I wanted it. So you might have to drag it to a sink or a trash can when it gets stinky, or drag it to the floor so your sim can grab it, because otherwise they'll be lying in bed and there will be a smelly glass in front of them. So now I've pulled out some of those wood planks again. I used them so much in this build, but I pulled them out from the debug menu and using the tool mod to rotate them and kind of move them around. And I wanted to basically use these wood planks to make my own custom wood frame for this mural, just because it looked a little bit plain, and wanted to give the bedroom just a little bit more hominess, and nothing says hominess like wooden framed pictures. Yeah, I had fun with this though. It's definitely so much of a game changer to use Twisted Mexie's tool mod. It really helps you create more cozy things, especially with people that have starter homes on a budget and you kind of can't always afford artwork and stuff, but you can use the mod to kind of cheat the system a bit and make the houses look a little bit more cluttered and cozy, and yeah. So I think I finished off with the parents' bedroom, and I kind of jump around the rooms a lot, and I just, because I keep remembering things I wanted to add, like these this toothbrush cup in the bathroom, and then I remembered that there were towels, so I added some fluffy towels to the kind of parents' window cabinet area, kind of like a bay window I was trying to emulate. And so yeah, just little odds and ends that I thought we could afford, I would just add there. And then I'm in the debug menu and I grabbed a whole load of those pebbles because originally I wanted to make artwork, custom artwork with the wood slats and make it use the rocks to spell out home, but they kind of snap at a certain height, and I could use the tool mod to kind of manipulate the rocks to kind of be at the location I wanted them to be, but that would take so long, and this build is already taking forever to finish. So maybe I'll try that out another time. Maybe just add it maybe add it to the gallery, the idea I have in mind when I have more time, because I'm trying to like get one video out per week for YouTube, but these videos take so long for me to edit sometimes, and so yeah, eventually we'll get there. I'd like to upload a few videos a week. But anyway, back to the build. I end up using just a few pebbles to kind of make the wood slats look like a piece of maybe some reclaimed palette wood, and then I used this grill brush from the debug menu and I shrunk it down and I angled it with the twisted XE tool, and kind of made it look like they're just crisscrossed grill brushes, just to add a little bit of custom artwork to this space, because that kind of little breakfast nook area kind of looked a bit barren. And then now I'm adding, I think, a hanging basket from the debug menu. Just debug is great. When in doubt, just use debug. And I'm pulling out from the debug menu that spray bottle that the parents use when kids get monsters underneath their bed. In case you didn't know, that's just one of the items, hidden items, that's what they use it for in gameplay. And just kind of fishing around debug, trying to find items like this TV remote so I could put it near the TV, and some bottles that I'm planning to put above the fridge. And then I found these, they kind of look like spice bottles, so I had this idea in mind that I wanted to make a spice rack. So I started pulling out the wood planks from debug, and I do end up elevating them against the wall where the oven is, and it took a little bit of manipulating, but I think it ended up looking kind of cute. Unfortunately, the spice bottles that I do end up using, they don't transfer to the gallery, which kind of sucks because they're perfect size bottles for that spice rack. But there are certain items within the game that they just don't transfer well to the gallery. Like, you can use them in your build if you're in the debug menu and you pull them out, but if you were to share it on the gallery, it doesn't really transfer. They kind of just disappear and vanish because they technically don't exist because they're in the debug menu. Because of this, I ended up making a kitchen debug kind of kit room, and I uploaded it to the gallery. So if you're curious about kitchen clutter that you're not quite sure whether or not it would transfer to the gallery, or you just don't want to search through all of the debug stuff, yeah, you can just download my room and that'll save you time. I used the chopping blocks from the debug menu and that breadboard with, I think, grilled cheese that was on it, and that stuff does not transfer to the gallery. I used the tool mod to rotate it around, but unfortunately it looks nice for like a few hours, but it doesn't last. It eventually, those chopping boards will go smelly, so something to consider. There's an expansion pack that has clutter breadboards, so if you have that expansion pack, you can put that in the game. So now I put the red shelf lined up on top of the fridge, and I'm kind of using that as my guide for getting all of the debug kitchen items to snap to that height, and kind of working out how they're going to be arranged and what. And yeah, just building in general just takes forever, and it just takes a long time for you to kind of fiddle things around to see where you like it to go. So I end up going back to the spice rack, and I switch out the original bottles that were there and with the fertilizer cans that you can find in debug, because I did test different items that would actually show up in the gallery, and those fertilizer bottles were the closest thing that looks like spice bottles, so I ended up switching that out on the spice rack. Then I add just a little shelf next to the sink with some more debug items, just to kind of give it a bit of a more homey look. And I also end up using the sponge. This is a debug sponge from, I think when you wash toddlers in the bathtub, that's where the sponge comes from, so I grabbed that from debug. So I wasn't quite done with the kitchen yet. I ended up downloading a toolbox room by Schnuck, and she's a creator here on YouTube, and she just does these amazing stop motion builds. So if you've never checked out Schnuck, you should really check them out. I hope I'm pronouncing their username right, but she has this toolbox on the gallery, and it's just like some of the most used items that she uses in her builds, like these black wood pole things, as well as some vent covers, and I think she also added some logs and the wood planks as well. And it's just a great little toolbox to have where you're making your own kind of customized kitchens and stuff. It's just a room with items, and when you're done grabbing things from it, you can go ahead and delete the whole room when you're done, and then the toolbox is gone. And I'm rambling so much in this video. This video has gotten so long, but we're nearing the end, I promise. So I'm just basically framing out the refrigerator, and I am kind of making this custom cabinet hutch to go over the fridge. I've seen that kind of custom cabinet in kitchens and stuff, and so I wanted to add a little bit more realism and some storage over the fridge, because there are no upper cabinets in the kitchen, so I wanted to make something that kind of resembled a cabinet without actually having to buy a cabinet. And so I used the black swatch of the kind of poles on the sides of the fridge to kind of make that frame, and then I used the tool mod to rotate the vent covers so that they lie flat, and then I just kind of tried to situate them over the fridge. Ended up rotating them a few times till I kind of got it to look like a nice square cubby made out of I would like to think that this is just made out of melamine, like they went to IKEA and they bought like this little over the fridge cabinet or something, or maybe they DIY'd a bookshelf. And so yeah, and when you work with vent covers, you also have to remove the wall or walls surrounding it so it doesn't snap, because the tool mod, like it'll rotate things for you where it's placed, but then if you grab the item and start moving it around, it could snap to surfaces, so you kind of have to bear that in mind. And now I'm just cluttering up and putting those items into the fridge cabinet space. And once I was done with that, I wanted to add just a little bit more clutter to the kitchen. Kind of went a bit ham on this room, but I added those clay bowls that are in debug, and I kind of pushed them into the fridge to kind of look like they were half bowl planters, and then I just added some plants from debug that seemed to fit there quite nicely. So thank you for sticking through this very long voiceover, and I'm working on some new exciting builds to hopefully be sharing soon here on YouTube and up on the gallery. My gallery ID is SarahDipitySims. And so since you've gotten to the end of this video, maybe give it a like, maybe comment something down below, consider subscribing if you're a new viewer, and until next time, I'll be seeing you.